All right. What's up, everybody? I'll once again post in the Discord. What's the YouTube link this time? Here it is. I should get that ready to go before streaming, I think. Probably be smart. But today is a very special day. Today is our first proper D&D stream. Or tabletop RPG, I guess. It's not quite D&D. So, David? Today's gonna be our first stream talking about and prepping and actually getting into the weeds, into the trenches with tabletop RPG game design and game prep. So our goals today, we're going to talk a little bit about the campaign I'm running. We'll go over just a little bit about the scenario that the players are in, what the players have been doing. And from there, we will... Did I update the... I updated it now. We will go through kind of the first dungeon that I prepped for them. Talk about a little bit about what it is and what I used to prep it. Then we will begin prepping for tonight's session, which may be the content after this dungeon is over, which is going to include... well, I don't know what it's going to include. It's going to include some downtime, basically. It's going to include what the adventurers do between adventures, which is largely going to be player focused. So I need to prepare basically for whatever they want to choose to do with their downtime. So I need to figure out what that's going to be like, and prep for this battle. So if we go in, so I should probably end this encounter. Let me go ahead and switch it over. This is the Sunless Citadel. This is a very famous adventure from... Well, first of all, let's talk about the software, right? This is Foundry Virtual Tabletop. This is a virtual tabletop, I guess. I don't really know how to describe it other than that. It's a program that you can use to run D&D and tabletop RPGs. It handles things like the mechanics of the game for you. It handles things like initiative, combat, and then of course you can load in maps and have granular player position, granular player vision. So this is all one player is able to see, for example. Yeah, you're able to prep games like this, which I'm pretty happy with it. I've used programs like Roll20, which are a little bit more they're a little bit I don't want to say more popular, I guess. I do feel like more people use Roll20, but Roll20 has a little bit more kind of staying power. It's a little bit older, a little bit more kind of well known. People have heard of it a little bit more casually, versus Foundry is a little bit more niche. But I think that it's a much more powerful program, and is specifically well set up for running Pathfinder 2, which is my system of choice, because all of the Pathfinder 2 stuff is maintained for free by the community. So anytime there's a new Pathfinder book that comes out, they add all of the content from that book for free onto Foundry. So the only thing I have to do is basically upload the things like the enemy artwork and the player artwork or really any artwork basically is all I have to take care of. So, um, yeah, this is so this is the first dungeon we did. It's called the Sunless Citadel. It's a pretty famous dungeon from 3.5. I think it was one of the first dungeons published for third edition D&D. Well, actually, I don't know when it was published. I guess I don't know if it was published for third edition or if it was published for 3.5. But it may have been republished for 3.5. Either way, third edition Dungeons and Dragons was big on at the beginning, at least, with getting back to the dungeon, because a lot of advanced Dungeons and Dragons and AD&D second edition stuff had moved away from the dungeon to kind of more of the heroic fantasy type stuff that now is really ingrained in the culture. So third edition's concept, at least initially, was to bring dungeons back. And whether or not it did it, I don't know who's to say. But I definitely enjoy the dungeon design of two modules in particular. One's called Sunless Citadel, the other's called Forge of Fury. And I think I'm going to run a variation of Forge of Fury for this group as well. So this is the layout of Sunless Citadel as it appears in the module. This was put together by well, I guess his signature is not on the map, but this was put together by a just a fan. This is community content on Foundry. So I was able to use the dungeon layout that he created rather than having to recreate it myself, or use artwork from the book. So the idea was the Sunless Citadel was initially a temple to some god, I guess, and it had been swallowed by the earth, right? The idea is that this like ravine basically just opened, the citadel fell into it, and then it closed again, more or less. And so you can see from the kind of like the sunlight on this little like ridge here. This is supposed to be what's exposed to the ravine, and this is the rest of the dungeon's kind of just this fortress underneath the cavern. So the idea is some guy found a tree that was like grown from a stake in a vampire's heart or something like that. And the apples, the poison apples on the tree, would like heal any wound or whatever, but would like do something. There was this whole subplot of this guy would then hire goblins to then take the apples into town, and such, and sell them to people, and then would have the goblins also steal any saplings of any trees planted if anybody tried to plant the apples to grow another tree, and then come to find out that they were like coming to life and like were evil creatures. But anyway, twig blights, I think they were called. Anyway, adventurers have some hook to come explore, and the idea is that the goblins are holed up here, but they're also at war with like this faction of kobolds, which are little like dragon people. And I wanted to fit this into the narrative for my campaign, which heavily features gnolls. So gnolls are more like hyena dudes. There was a trend in classic Dungeons and Dragons to just have like animal people be a lot of the enemies you would fight. And so gnolls are like these hyena looking dudes. So we have a kind of just and they were held up here. They're just a kind of really kind of ragtag group of gnolls that have lost their home. They've been pushed out of the Underdark and found their way into this into this abandoned citadel, I guess, and have kind of made a home here and now have staked some of their own territory in what would normally be controlled by goblins. So the players got here, so they were sent here. And again, I didn't really go with any of the poison apple shit. I wasn't into any of that. Instead, the idea is that there's a big tournament being held in town. So we'll actually pull this up in our scenes list. Where's our scenes list? Been a long time since I changed scenes. If I go to, yeah, Silver Hill, view scene. So here, there's a big tournament being held in this town. And you can see kind of the tournament grounds down here. And the prince and the head of the royal guard were on a convoy from the capital city to this town to take part or be present for the tournament. And they never sent word that they arrived, and in fact never arrived. So the leader of the city guard or the leader of the royal guard, the acting leader of the royal guard, then hired our adventuring party to figure out what happened, and they ended up tracking goblins into the wilderness to then come across our scene. So they move down, they take a rope down into the ravine, and ended up in Area 1. And then started exploring this dungeon, and that was several weeks ago. this was over a month, well over like 2 or 3 months ago now. This was like February when this happened. They've been down here a while because we don't get to play that often. So, sup Will, sup Haya. So they come in, and they got attacked by some rats. There are some dire rats. Essentially just big ass rats of unusual size, right? They come in and they find the charred corpses and like the eaten corpses of goblins, as well as behind one of the goblin bodies is an inscription of a draconic I and a draconic O, which is the mark of like this old dragon god called Io. That's long since been said to be dead. So they went through and found, they unlocked this door, and came and found a dragon door. It's basically just big ass door with a dragon on it, with a like a magic keyhole. Need a magic key for it. So then they're like, okay, well we can't go that way. So they move on. They end up finding a watering hole, as well as a library. And in the library they find this old book. And in this old book they have Draconic on the left, and then I had them essentially roll to translate it. And then with the translation, we've got the English the common English translation, right? And what was fun about this is that I did, I had it. The idea was that this citadel is like over 1,000 years old, right? And so it's even written in like in archaic Draconic dialect. And so even though the players speak Draconic, when they translate it to English, it doesn't really make sense. Things like they placed the key in the mouth of the stone one and played all the tricks. And I had like I had Isaiah, who plays the rogue, roll a history check. I had it, even though he doesn't speak Draconic, or even though another character was the one translating it, he was the one that heard that line and was like, oh, that's an old Draconic way of talking about laying traps, right? And that's something he would know because he's the rogue, right? So, so they get this idea that we know that Io is considered a dead god, but it looks like that this is around the time that he died, is when this is written. So it reads, "But to doom our priest to an endless life in that tomb, it's a face worse than death." So the idea is that the members of this religion stopped having their prayers received by their god, and then decided to blame it on their priest. I guess the priest must have been doing something that they were disagreeing with at the time, or made a bold decision, and then suddenly their prayers stopped being answered. So they decided to punish their priest by turning him into a troll and then locking him into a basically burying him alive, burying him in his tomb. The idea being that trolls don't die of natural causes; they're constantly regenerating. So he's just chilling there for who knows how long. So and then they find, the stone one was this statue over here where the key is supposed to be. But that really didn't make sense for the story as I had it. And so I said, there's a place for the keyhole, but there's clearly a place where the key would have been, but the gnolls have it now. And the gnolls were holed up. This was their camp. So, players got those hints. They come in here. There was a gnoll locked up here, in this cage, and the bones of a gnoll in a bloody mess on the floor in front of the remains of a campfire. So the idea was, the gnoll that was locked in this cage, his name is Red. That's this one. His name was Red. The idea was that he was tasked with guarding a young white dragon that they had captured. And he fell asleep on the job or was distracted on the job, and the dragon escaped and killed his friend. And then gnoll culture, if you didn't know, which why would you? Gnolls eat their dead. They will cannibalize. They'll also eat the dead of their enemies. It is a ritualistic practice. It is considered disrespectful to let animal remains go uneaten, basically, or let any living creature's remains go unused. And that includes sentient beings. So Red did not get to partake in the eating of his friend, but as punishment, and they locked him in this cage. So the players were like, okay, we will bust you out if you'll help us, but first we're going to go explore over here. So they turn right down this hallway. They did not explore any of the gnoll territory because they didn't want to piss off any gnolls. So they were like, we're just gonna fuck off this way for now. So they leave through these tunnels. They end up finding there's a trapped door. They ended up opening it. It was so one of our players is a cleric of a death god. He performs funerals and stuff. And on the side, he's a grave robber. So his idea, his name's Terry. His name's Towering Terry, the halfling. Cleric of Gallimore, grave robber. So his idea was I will work, I will perform funerals, whatever, people tend to bury the dead with, their nice watches, their nice, jewelry, things like that. And then when the funeral's over and people don't look at the body anymore, I'll just go in and take what I need. So we come to this door, and on the door is a symbol for essentially a healing spell. And so the idea was that for certain graves, to prevent grave robbers, there would be a spell on the door that you could only enter with a healing spell, basically. And this was to keep out grave robbers. But of course, Terry uses this to his advantage. He's able to enter doors like that because he's a cleric and can cast healing spells. So he's able to apply it here as well. He used the heal spell on the door, is able to open it for us without needing to disarm the trap or anything. And then in here, when they went and grabbed the loot, which has now been taken, but when they went and grabbed the loot, it was there was a group of skeletons that were awoken here. So they fought some skeletons. They got some loot from this fountain. There was a cool riddle that let them get some fire breathing potion. They come up here. They met a dude named Kieg. He was part of an adventuring party that had been sent in before them. There was a monk hobgoblin named Kieg in here, who had come in here and found a rat's nest. That was the dire rat nest, where all the dire rats were coming from. And Kieg's party leader got killed in here. His name was Caracas. So he was held up in here and was trying to essentially treat his wounds when the party found him. So they brought him back to kind of the gnoll hideout, and they were like, "Hey, Red, if we negotiate with your tribe, will they let you out? Will they let you go with us?" And they were like, yeah. He was like, yeah. I mean, probably. I mean, they're kind of excommunicating me from the tribe, but if you want to talk to him, you can. So they ended up talking to the gnolls, and then in order to essentially engage with the gnolls, kind of in order to get on the good side and not offend them, they had to kind of partake in their culture. So the gnolls were like, hey, we've got freshly cooked goblin. Will you please help yourself to some? And the players were like, well, I guess we're eating goblin tonight. So they ended up eating some goblin, and ended up getting on the gnolls' good side. And so the gnolls agreed that they would help. They would help the players. So players were like, okay, we'll go in. We will get your dragon, or we'll take care of your dragon problem, because the dragons escaped. Now the goblins potentially have it. It's on the loose. They were like, we will take care of the dragon, and you guys, when the time is right, help us take on the rest of the goblins. The gnolls were like, fine, we'll do that. In the meantime, here's that key that we found. So with the dragon key, they came down here, were able to get through the dragon door, went through some riddles and some puzzles, fought some animated armor, and then found the tomb of the disgraced dragon priest. And so in here they fought a troll. Troll was pretty easy. I kind of under-leveled it, honestly. Wasn't much of a boss fight, but the idea is that it's a weakened troll because it's just been sitting here just wasting away as much as it can for like 1,000 years. So they wiped the floor with the troll, set him free, did him a huge favor, honestly, and got some sick loot. He was buried with some divine scrolls of magic. So they got some sick loot from that. This was, so they ended up taking a rest. They got a rest where they could recharge their spells and get their health back up and things like that whenever they spoke to the gnolls. But they have not rested since before fighting the dragon priest. The rest has been all in the same day, which has been brutal for low level characters that don't have that much in terms of healing items, in terms of health pool, like in terms of spell slots, to cast just a whole lot of spells, or just to have a whole lot of things that they can do in a single day. It's been brutal, but they've been wanting to take advantage of pressing the advantage forward. So the idea is that they found this hallway full of caltrops, and some goblins were holding up in here in room 32, and they weren't able to. They were at a severe disadvantage coming from that direction. So they went instead into the nest of the rats. And when they cleared out the rats, they were able to find a secret door that led to behind the goblin camp. So in doing so, they fought their way through. They killed a few goblins and found a key to this door. That they then interrogated some goblins to find out that it was to where the goblins were keeping the dragon. And so then last session they opened the door and accidentally let the dragon out. But the dragon was like, "Hey, why are you letting me free?" And they were like, "Well, we wanna help you." And the dragon was like, "I don't believe you." So then the dragon starts to fight them. And of course I didn't have Pathfinder doesn't have art for wormling dragons. So I used the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon to signify like a baby white dragon. So Nalix the White Dragon is a level 4 creature against a level 2 party. They leveled up after fighting the troll from level 1. Against the level 2 party, he did some major damage, but wasn't able to overcome. So he got severely wounded, and basically surrendered. And the party was like, "Well, we're gonna be true to our word. We are here to set you free." And the idea, our player Nem, our player Ish that plays the character Nem, was like, I want to get on this dragon's good side. I think it could be a powerful ally if it grows up to be big and strong. So he was like, we will release you. We won't send you back to the Knolls. We won't make you do anything. We're gonna let you go. So they took him back through the tunnel and out through this escape. Let the dragon go. So that I think should come into play this session. I think we should do something with that. So then they decided, they're like, okay, we're about ready. There was like a camp full of goblins here and a hobgoblin commander. They were like, I think we assault the goblins now. So they sent Red back to the Gnoll hideout to tell the Gnolls, hey, we're going in now. And so now the Gnolls from the south and the party from the north broke in and killed all the goblins in here. And now the goblins are coming in from their main hideout. They're now swarming in. And as the goblins are swarming in, so I basically activated combat with every single person in this corner of the dungeon here. And was like, and pulled them all into initiative. We ended up getting like 61 people in initiative, if my count was correct, in total. Several of them have died already, but including the players, they also saved a wizard named Illustria. That was also part of Kieg's party. Kieg's over here. Including their NPC allies, including the Gnolls, and then including the goblins. There's a total of like 61 combatants. So we ran that for about an hour. We ran that combat. Now that the goblins are cleared out of this area, their idea is we're going to go through these north doors, and we're going to go take care of the goblin leadership, which are all holed up in here for the time being. So they're like, we're going to go in there and let the Gnolls take care of the goblin foot soldiers in here. And the goblins have some backup coming, so they'll be able to have quite the battle. So that's the game so far. That's the summary of all that's happened so far. We have of our party, we have Denver, who I like to call Denver Omelet. He is a gnome rogue with the cook background, and he practices druidism on the side occasionally. This is our homeboy. He's played by Isaiah. Then we've got Nem, who is a plain touched, kind of angel touched human inventor. Inventor is a class unique to Pathfinder that invents things. It's kind of the MacGyver of fantasy RPGs. Pretty cool class. It's focused a lot on crafting. So I'm kind of trying to come up with mechanics for giving him different crafting recipes and stuff like that for him to be able to make weapons and armor and shit. Then we have Raiden, who belongs to a people called the Stormforged, which are automaton creatures built from built by this city that they were essentially meant to be they're essentially droids from Star Wars, where they were essentially built initially to be kind of a workforce, and then it turns out, oh hey, there's kind of a little bit of sentience behind these things, and in fact there's a lot of sentience. After a few years of being alive, they started to develop free will and started to develop emotional capacity and things like that. So Raiden is actually one of the prototypes. She's one of the oldest, or they are one of the oldest Stormforged. They're only 7 years old. So she put 35. Jade put 35 because she was like, I'm thinking in wolf years. Because the idea is that as a hunter Stormforged, she's built almost like with or they're built with almost animalistic qualities to make them better hunters. Essentially, your heritage as a Stormforged is like what task you were built to achieve. And in fact, with the dedicated Delver background, the idea and the Ranger class, the idea is that Raiden was built as an agent to hunt in the Underdark, which in D&D and Pathfinder is kind of the cave systems and dungeons that are below the surface level, that expand, probably as much land, if not more, than the surface does. And it's filled with monsters and dangers and all that. So, and then we have, of course, Towering Terry, the halfling grave robber cleric of Gallimore, which with the strength of +4 as a halfling is absolutely amazing. So that's our party, and then we have their allies that they found, which are Red, who is a Gnoll fighter. In Pathfinder, the Gnoll ancestry is called Kolo. For my game and my world, I'm gonna say that Kolo is a specific like tribe of Gnolls. But I'm still gonna use I still use the Gnoll name for kind of colloquial use. And in fact, these are not Kolos. These are Gnolls of a different tribe, whose name I do not remember off the top of my head, to be honest. We have Kieg, who's a hobgoblin monk. He's struggling a little bit with fighting these goblins. He's not too happy that these goblins are causing trouble, because he doesn't want people to look at him as one of the good ones. He wants their people to be taken seriously. And then we have Illustria, who is a elf wizard, from astrologer background, in fact. And she's someone who has wanted to travel the world to expand her knowledge of magic, but is not doing so hot with it so far, because her very first adventure, she got captured and her spell book burned, and nearly died. So she's not thinking she's cut out for the adventuring life for much longer. So tonight, what the players will be doing is they will be leaving the rest of the battle with the goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears for the Gnolls, and they'll be moving up here to kick in this door and fight the cabal of the goblin leadership. So we have a hobgoblin commander, which is the same kind of hobgoblin commander that they've been fighting, and is just a level 2, essentially a hobgoblin fighter. Then we've got a goblin commando, which is just an elite goblin, essentially. Then we have a goblin alchemist, which is going to be able to throw things like alchemist's fire and bottled lightning, which can stun creatures. And it's going to be in the back just chucking shit. Then we've got a goblin war chanter, which is essentially a goblin bard, is going to be buffing his goblin allies in the fight. And then we've got Dern, the hobgoblin leader. And he's beefed out. He's level 4, and is beefed out to be able to do some damage, and also be able to take some damage as well. He's got things like shield block, and things like that to mitigate some damage. So he's probably gonna start the combat by sitting back and shooting from the rear, because he's got a pretty dope ass bow called a phalanx piercer, which is specifically a hobgoblin culture weapon. Has a hobgoblin tag, and is basically just a big propulsive. It's described kind of like it's described a little bit like a crossbow, but it also has the propulsive trait which means you add half your strength modifier to damage rolls, which is typically a something, you wouldn't think with something that you pull the trigger that your strength modifier would do any help. So what I'm thinking is that a phalanx piercer has like a drawstring that has like that can go basically as far back as you can pull it, and so the idea is that he can pull it all the way back to do extra damage. And then is also +1 weapon, and so is able to is magical in nature and is able to do some extra damage. And he's probably gonna sit in the back and be shooting that into at the party while his minions come in. The Hobgoblin Commander, the Goblin Commando, go kind of the front lines. And then should the party be able to reach him or kind of break down the front line, he'll be able to draw a shield and a breaching pike. In fact, I will change this to be held two-handed, worn. And then especially because his AC is only 19 right now. He's got a key for his chest. He's got a chest full of loot. And he's ready to go. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have the Goblin Commando and Hobgoblin Commander be kind of what do you call it? They're kind of like battle leaders. Basically, like for as long as they're alive, each round they're going to basically call in another kind of minion into the fight. So the Hobgoblin Commander will summon a Hobgoblin Soldier, and a Goblin Commando might summon a Bugbear, for example. Or I might just have it be like 1d3, and have it be either a Goblin Warrior, a Bugbear, or a Hobgoblin Soldier. Something like that. Summon into the room for the fight. So yeah, that's gonna be pretty rough. It's gonna be a pretty tough fight, but they're gonna have Kieg and Alestria there to help. Alestria is able to use a couple of spells. Pretty much our only useful one right now is Phase Bolt. But she's able to kind of sit in the back and kind of be artillery. Whereas Kieg can take a couple hits and is able to use Flurry of Blows as a monk to really dish out some damage. He might be able to take down a goblin or two. He might be able to, especially if they bring in minions, he can focus on the minions while the party deals with kind of the main people here. And then the bystanders here are the prince and the leader of his royal guard, who are the targets that they're meaning to save. So if the party's able to defeat Dern and the rest of the goblins surrender, Kieg is going to offer to essentially kind of he's going to offer to kind of basically be the new goblin leader. He's going to be like, hey, instead of giving these goblins over to the law, why don't you let me take care of them? I'm gonna show them that there are better ways of living than raiding and pillaging. And then Alestria is going to be like, actually, I would like to go with you guys. You guys seem to be far more capable than I am. I'd like to go with you. And same for Red, assuming they survive. It's entirely possible that they don't. But assuming they survive, Alestria and Red are going to want to join the party. So they'll be the first companion characters. The idea is kind of like Baldur's Gate. I want there to be kind of some NPCs that follow the PCs around. There were feats in 3rd edition and previous editions of D&D that allowed you to gain followers. So you were able to kind of I think in third edition it was you got a companion of 2 levels lower than you, and then you got a certain number of followers based on your charisma score or something like that. And so the idea is these companions are usually characters that can stand in the back line or can be not involved with combat or not involved in necessarily like the regular goings on. They're not like another party member, but they are kind of a conduit for the story to take place and somebody that can fill in gaps in the party composition and things like that as well. So like in my last game, nobody could cast arcane spells or really buffs of any kind. And so one of the players took the leadership feat so that they could get a wizard companion that, even though being a couple levels lower, could still cast really useful buffs on the party and have the party still be the heroes. So Alestria will be one of those characters where, especially if like the way Pathfinder's math works is that two characters of 2 levels lower equal 1 character of X level. So if you've got, if you're level 5, then you are about the strength of 2 level 3 characters. So the idea is that the companion characters will be 2 levels less than the party. And so if there's ever a player who misses a session, we'll say, okay, instead of that person going with you, now these 2 companions will go with you. So pick your 2 companions from your kind of pool of companions to give players kind of like something to mix up whenever somebody's gone. So the idea is that their first 2 will be Alestria and Red, should they survive. And then from there, each time they go through a dungeon or complete an adventure, they'll gain, kind of the allyship of 1 or 2 other. Hey, Shano, you're supposed to not be here. You cannot be here. This is for sure spoilers. You gotta take a hike, my friend. Can't be here for D&D streams. We're prepping shit. But anyways, this is stuff this actually is stuff I've already said to you guys. But as far as characters like Alestria and characters like Red, being kind of the companion type characters, but for future dungeons and future adventures, they'll have the ability to make friends and make allies out of other characters. So so now that Shane's gone, we can talk about what we're gonna do after this, or what we're gonna do next. So after they complete this dungeon, they're gonna take Sir Royce Blackwood and Prince Peter Norman back to civilization. And when they do so, they're gonna have the ability to take some downtime. So with downtime, the idea is, and I'll reference the rule over here first. I did kind of my own home rules. For leveling up. Shit, I didn't mean to do that. Let's see. XP and leveling up. So the idea is that when they level up to 3rd level, they have to take 3 days of downtime. So it's, X days of downtime, X being the level you're leveling up to. They need 3 days of downtime and 30 gold pieces spent to level up to 3. So the idea being that a fighter might pay for training, a rogue might pay his dues to the Thieves Guild, a cleric might pay for some incense and some ritual type stuff. Wizard will pay for spell components, things like that. Arcane foci. And then take a few days of practicing their craft, or practicing their martial abilities, or whatever it is, to then level up to the next level. So I'm only doing that for every odd level. Every even level, they just gain the benefits of the even level immediately, to kind of make it to where they can have things like a boss fight, or like a secret boss in the middle of an adventure and get a level up as a reward. Things like that. So with their downtime, they'll have 3 days of downtime. Then we'll probably want to craft some stuff. So we'll give him some stuff to craft. They technically never found Nalex's hoard, which I may give them the ability to find, just because I want them to have the stuff that's in it. In fact, may just move stuff from Nalex's hoard into Durn's loot, for example. Perhaps. Or I might just tell them that it's Nalex's hoard. With the 3 days of downtime, I need to go back to the city map and update if there's anything. I need to see if there's anything in store. So here's our city. Here's our capital city. I made this map by hand, by the way. I made it using a program called Incarnate, and yeah, everything you see was placed by hand. Took me quite a few days, but put it together. So here they have like what is this? Oh, just the different things they can buy at the inn. I'll go ahead and put it. Why is it over here? I can kind of put it here. So the idea is that when they visit the city, they can come in here, and there's different shops that they can shop at. So there's the Adventurers Guild, different elven shops that have like elven specific weapons. Scroll Scribe that sells scrolls of different spells. An alchemist, a dwarven smith that sells weapons and armor. A leather workers guild that sells hide armor and leather armor and stuff. Let's see, carpenters guild sells like a wooden shield, a chest, tents, things like that. And then the blacksmith guild sells all the rest of the weapons and stuff. Now I don't know why they have. I guess because it has infinite coinage. I don't know. That's weird. Now I wanted to maybe see about expanding the shops here, but I think I went ahead and made it to where I was already kind of future-proofing the shops where they kind of sell up to like 5th level or level 5 type stuff. Yeah, because there's rank 2 scrolls in here. There's rank 3. So it looks like that I've already kind of future-proofed the merchants. There's a place for them to sell their treasure. The library is already there. So there may not actually be all that much downtime. I was kind of banking on the downtime being a significant portion of the session, but it may not be that they have much downtime to spend. So I don't know. There's not really much in terms of messing with the shops that I need to do. I could maybe come up with an encounter for them to have in the city during their downtime, or at the end of their downtime, maybe. I don't know. I guess we could probably, I mean, we could maybe just move on to kind of get started on the next adventure for them. But I don't know. I wasn't. I guess I wasn't. I guess I wasn't prepared to prepare for that today. I want to. I want to go. I want to go maybe off stream, look through some maps. Though actually, we can maybe pull from the maps I already have. So let's go look through our compendium packs. There's a lot of free maps that you can download for Foundry. So we'll go kind of look through some levels. No, where's maybe maps? Rakuza's maps. Wrath of the Righteous maps. Blackwing Ruins. Okay. Sword of Valor. Army Encampment. Dresden Citadel. Dresden Dungeon. Route map. I don't really want to import these. Do I have these? Do I have some in my scene collection already? I've got Caverns of Thracia. Here's downloaded ones. And then there's ones for Sunless Citadel. So, there's Curse of Strahd. Here's Abomination Vaults, I think, is that one. River Camp. Let's see this. It's cute, but I don't know that it will work. Rock Nest. Okay, making sure it doesn't load all of these. This is interesting. Let's see, Whirlpool, Gulthias Tree. It's funny, that's the tree mentioned in Sunless Citadel, actually. Swamp Sanctuary. This one seems interesting. Oh, it's literally a sanctuary. And is it supposed to be flooded? I guess it is. It's kind of cool. Bank Heist. Yo! It's kind of dope. Jade Temple. Endless Wizard's Tower. Fountain. Horseman's Bridge. That's boring. Lightning Rail. Carnival. Rivenwish Chasm. Probably not that. Death Pits. Mad Alchemist Lab. Red Dragon Lair. Forest Overwatch. This one might work. This one might work for having a camp encounter type thing. Rolled Tree Roots. Dockside Tavern. Coral Cave Ruins. Oh, these look kind of dope. These are, I think, supposed to be underwater. It's kind of dope. Bakery, Spa, Warehouse, Scribe, Spider Queen Temple, inside a dead purple worm. This is an interesting one. Koi Pagoda. Oh, it's literally a pagoda on a koi. That's interesting. Crypts of Saint Duran. And then a pumpkin patch. Very medieval. If you know, you know. Then these are all Fandelver related ones. This is supposed to be a Gallon Ambush. I don't really necessarily like the art style of these. Here's Cragmaw Hideout. Here's a Red Brand Hideout. What about Old oil well. Ruins of Thunder Tree. Okay, this might be more in line with what I want. This could be a cool place for an encounter. This may be the one I do. Because the idea is that, can we just view? I didn't mean to do that. The idea is going to be, this is where we are now. We're in the Hills of the Warrior. And they're the tournament's at Silver Hill. Then we've got Vitalitas is the capital city. They're going to come all the way down here into the Barren Steppes. Because there is or actually kind of north of the Barren Steppes in this forest. There is supposedly some druids here that are going to have some information that's useful to them. Nice thing about big maps, so you can cut them up for small encounter maps, rotate a couple, etc. Yep, for sure. Especially for something like this, you could do just this section as an encounter map if you wanted to. I think them finding like an old village that's been destroyed on kind of the edge of the forest. That might be cool. Wyvern Tor. This one works okay. Cragmaw Castle, Wave Echo Cave, Well Cavern, Goblin Camp. Here we go. Nah. Too small. Vandalin Alleys. Gibbet Crossing. I can't zoom out further than this. This is also a dungeon. I don't know. I'm going to have to go searching for a map, I think. Or make one myself. But, I don't know. I don't know that I want to make a map on stream today. So, anyways. Any questions so far? I guess. How you guys doing? What do you guys think? Is a little bit different than what I'm used to. In terms of kind of streams I do, but that'd be cool to go through a little bit of the thought process behind prepping D&D. Okay, so I'm gonna hit end encounter. Yes, because we are going to redo initiative and stuff. Play PF2E myself. Awesome. That's great, homie. I'm a Pathfinder 2 guy myself as well. Oh, I guess I should clarify. This is all Pathfinder 2. I call it D&D colloquially. You know, because it's kind of all the same to me. But yeah, prepping TTRPG. It's just a mouthful, so I just say D&D, or I guess I should say PF2E. But I don't know. I don't expect my existing audience to know what that is. So yeah, it's especially hard when I'm like talking to my family and I'm like, yeah, our Pathfinder. What's Pathfinder? Our D&D game. Like, it's our D&D game. That's what it is. You know. Because now D&D is getting to the point where people know what that is. So at least we can use that as a jumping off point for everything else. But I've been a D&D guy myself for so long that I'm still attached to kind of the D&D world, D&D lore, stuff like that. So I'm doing I'm working things in like this is a variation of Sunless Citadel from 3rd edition. I want to do some Forge of Fury type stuff later on down the road. Heavy liberties taken with them, but still. And I use things like more classic knolls and stuff like that. Yeah. It's like D&D except for adults. Yeah, exactly. D&D is a gender neutral term. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, D&D except for adults. I agree. I want to someday kind of merge the two. I feel like the people that play D&D with me, or that I play D&D with, or that I talk about D&D with, and their style of play, and then the people who, are part of the Pathfinder 2 community and the games that they play. I feel like I belong to neither group. The games I try to run. Really, I belong to like the Torchbearer and like Shadow Dark type culture of like old school dungeon crawls, and the heroic fantasy is what you make of it. Like if you want to be a hero, you got to do heroic. You got to fucking be able to be ready to make sacrifices to be a hero type of thing. More kind of pulp fantasy, and I feel like modern D&D and Pathfinder 2, neither of them quite hit. I'm somewhere in the middle almost. And so I'd like to make a version, despite the fact that Shadow Dark already exists and Torchbearer already exists. I'd like to, I think, merge some I'd like to take advantage of the Orc license for Pathfinder 2 to merge some of D&D back in almost, and really tailor Pathfinder 2. Use Pathfinder specifically as the basis because I like way more from Pathfinder than I do of D&D 5. But kind of bring back in a few of the old school style design stuff. One of the things I've already done for that is in playing Pathfinder 2 is we do proficiency with half level. So for you uninitiated in Pathfinder 2, you basically add your level to everything. So as a level 2 character, when you're proficient in something, say if you're trained in athletics, you add a +2 for being trained, +2 for being level 2, plus whatever your strength modifier is, because it's athletics. There's a variation of the game that's more similar to D&D called proficiency without level, which is to just say you've got your modifier and then you've got +2 for being trained, and that's it. And what I'm doing is proficiency with half level, which is you instead of gaining a +2 at level 2, you gain a +2 at level 3. It rounds up, and then you'll retain the +2 at level 4, and then it'll get a +3 at level 5. So what that does is, since you add that modifier to everything on your character sheet, basically, it changes the entire like math of the game. So the way that base Pathfinder is set up is if you're fighting a level 4 boss, as a level 2 character, they're going to basically have a +2 or a 10% on a D20 roll chance, a better chance of succeeding at anything they do than you do. If they want to hit you, they have 10%. They have a 10% better chance of doing so. If they want to, if you want to hit them, you have a 10% less chance of you have a 10% higher chance of missing. And what that means is that once you get to be level 4, level 5, and you're fighting, if you were to fight a creature -1 goblin, you would just wipe the floor with them because you just have basically a +6 bonus to everything compared to them. Versus 5th edition, at level 1, you might have a +6 to athletics, and at level at level 12, you might, or at level 20, you might have a plus 10 to athletics. Just because you only have the proficiency increases, which it starts at plus 2, it ends at plus 6. So it's only like a plus 4 difference between level 1 and level 20, which is just not like a level. Somebody who is the maximum level in a heroic fantasy game has only a 20% better chance of succeeding at something than a level 1 character, than somebody fresh off the boat, you know. So I've never really liked that about 5th edition D&D. That's something that was new to 5th edition, as a way of like, and I mean, part of it is core to old school D&D as well, to a certain extent. But the idea is that it lends to realism, quote unquote, where you know, if you get ganged up by goblins at level 15, you might still be in danger, type of thing. Whereas Pathfinder 2, the proficiency to level system is baked into like the heroic fantasy idea, right? The idea that whenever you're level 20, you wipe the floor, you are a god among men. And I want something in the middle. And 4th edition D&D actually did this exactly. I want something in the middle where, if you're level 20, you have plus 10 compared to a level 1 person, which is a significant, has 50% on a D20, boost. But it's still within the world, realm of reason. It also means that they get a distinct math increase at every odd level, which are the major level ups in my game. It also means that like a fighter gets a plus 1 to everything, to attack and damage at the same time, or attack really at the same time that a wizard gets their new spell level, their new spell rank. So that's kind of the idea. So I've incorporated my own little like I've even coded my own little house rule type thing. It's like a special feat in Foundry that specifically will set it to where it will divide the math in half so that it can accommodate that. And then there's another plugin already. There's already a plugin by somebody else that does it for monsters. So 5e is more for role players and Pathfinder 2 is more for people who want the detail. I don't know that I agree. I think Pathfinder 2 can be for role players. And I don't know that D&D is necessarily for role players. I think, there's very little in that book that's set up to really facilitate role play, really more than any other game. There's no real, there's character creation, but then like there's no real... The rules for 5th edition, like role-playing rules, are so loose and so nebulous that I don't even really use them. 3rd edition, I think, had much better rules for it. Things like sense motive and bluff and things broken down at a more granular level for like the talking skills and things like that. Pathfinder 2, I think, brings a little bit of that back in. But I don't think either of them are really set up for specifically, role playing or whatever. Pathfinder 2 is I think for people who want a balanced game, a well-designed game for that matter, a game that what to expect out of it. I feel like Pathfinder 2 is for dungeon masters who want control over the experience, which is what I like. Fifth edition was so I ran 5th edition for some of my players who I used to run 3rd edition for, and what we found is that I could not for the life of me make an interesting combat encounter in 5th edition. There's just there was no way for me to do it. It essentially is rolling dice. You are rolling dice because the rolling of the dice is the fun part. And when we were younger and when we were first starting out playing D&D, it was fun to just roll dice and like be like, oh man, am I gonna hit this turn? But 5th edition specifically, especially at low levels, the problem with 5th edition is that low levels, you're just rolling to see if you hit, and then if you miss, your turn's over, you move on. And at high levels, everything is so broken that there's nothing to do. Like the wizard solves the problem, and the fighter wonders why they're there. and there's very little in between. And so with Pathfinder, you just get a little bit better of an idea. There's a little bit more of the balance, but I think that each system has its strengths. If we think of the three pillars of not D&D, but the three pillars of like TTRPG design, being like role play, game design, like actual game design, and verisimilitude, and like simulationism. I would say third edition does simulationism better than any system I've ever seen. Third edition felt like you were reading the laws of a universe, rather than game rules, which I really enjoyed, and some people really hated. And then Pathfinder 2, I think it's got the game, really the game design down to a science. Has the best game design, and then 5th edition kind of fills in the gap between the two, kind of just because it has nothing that it's good at. I think, but I think if you had to pick one that it was best at, I don't think it does the game mechanics very well. I don't think it does simulationism very well. So I guess role playing is the only thing it does okay. Just because it doesn't do role playing, it just has character creation. I also like the archetype system. I tend to keep things as God intended in BF2 because using the optional rules means I gotta adjust everything, mostly because I'm lazy. Yeah, the big thing for me is I really wanted a dungeon crawler, and I wanted players to be able to do things out of order. I also wanted them to still have, I wanted them to be able to get in over their heads and still have a chance at escape or of success or whatever. And I also wanted them to be able to face off against like a horde of enemies of lower level and it still be a significant threat. And so proficiency with half level ended up being perfect for that. And initially I wasn't going to do it because I'm lazy and because it took too much work, but then I figured it out and I was like, yeah, we're going to do it. The archetype system is also great. I no longer miss, I thought I was going to miss multi-classing when I came over to Pathfinder 2. I don't miss it. I do not miss multi-classing whatsoever. Is the session going to be spooky? I don't think it's going to be spooky necessarily. It's not necessarily, but I see where you're getting that from the color scheme. But I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's going to be pretty, I mean, unless they get into some trouble, in these fights, then it might get a little spooky, but no, I'm not running a horror themed campaign. It just happens to be kind of just purpley and dark and spooky up in here. That's dungeons for you, man. Dungeons should be spooky. Dungeons are inherently spooky to a certain extent, just because you never know what's around any corner. You know, it's part of the fun. It's part of the fun for me. So anyway, thanks for stopping in, Dodo, and Strangely Brown. I was wondering if I should put Pathfinder as the game category on Twitch, for discoverability reasons. I didn't know if if that was going to do anything for us, or if I should do just chatting or whatever. But I think having it as maybe I'll trade off between the Pathfinder category and the D&D category, just so we can kind of pull from both. Maybe get some get some of the Pathfinder homies in, Pathfinder community and some of the D&D. We'll convert some D&D nerds, show them the ways. But yeah, so I'm gonna be doing these every Thursday, potentially, in some capacity. We'll be talking TTRPG. We'll be talking Pathfinder. We'll be talking a little bit of D&D, though really just how it relates to Pathfinder and TTRPGs. But I want to go find a map, but I don't really want to do that on stream. So I'm going to go find a map for potentially the next encounter. And then I'm gonna eat dinner, and then my session will start pretty soon. So, I think that's gonna be it for me today. Unless you guys have any questions or any fun stuff, fun anecdotes you want to share. One of my favorite starts to an encounter. I had a big bad kick in the door to the room the players were in. Hefted his huge falchion. Good news, no one dies a virgin today because you're all fucked. That's great. Classic. Everybody gangsta till the boss kicks in the door. Instead of you kicking in the door. And it's like, oh, shit. Anyways. All right, guys. I will catch you next week. We're going to be doing the same thing. Chickens to let out of the coop. What a guy. I'll catch you guys next Thursday with some more D&D prep. We don't play every Thursday. We also don't always. Sometimes when we play, it's not Thursday. But I think Thursdays, as far as the D&D streams, just taking an hour or two, maybe sometimes more, to maybe prep something on stream, show off some cool stuff going on in our game off stream. Might be fun. So, yeah, I think we'll do this next Thursday. Catch you guys later.